You've just met someone for the first time, a friend of a friend. At first, everything seems fine, maybe a little awkward, but nothing out of the ordinary. Yet over the next few days, you find yourself thinking, acting, and even feeling the way they do. You've started to adopt their habits, their moods, their beliefs. It's as though their personality has infiltrated yours without you even realizing it. Is it possible to absorb someone else's personality so fully that you forget where theirs ends and yours begins? What if this wasn't just a quirky coincidence? What if there's something deeper at play, something rooted in the very mechanics of the human mind? We all change and adapt in response to the people around us. But why does it seem like some of us absorb the characteristics of others so effortlessly? Why do we mirror their traits, their mannerisms, their way of thinking, sometimes to the point where we forget what we were like before? This is what psychologists call introjection, and it's a subtle yet powerful force shaping who we are. But how does it work? The disturbing history. Introjection is far older than the term itself. Ancient philosophers and early psychologists have long pondered how we internalize the world around us. From the earliest stages of life, we are shaped by the relationships we form. Imagine a newborn, their eyes fixed on the face of their mother or primary caregiver, absorbing not just their warmth and comfort, but their tension, their fears, and their moods. This is more than mere mimicry. It's a form of psychological osmosis. Over time, this process becomes so ingrained that the child no longer distinguishes their own feelings from those they've absorbed. The emotional framework of the caregiver becomes the child's own, for better or for worse. While Melanie Klein's theory focused on the developmental aspect of introjection in children, it's important to note that this process doesn't stop once we reach adulthood. In fact, introjection continues to influence us throughout our lives. Every interaction we have, be it with a romantic partner, a colleague, or even a stranger, leaves a mark on our psyche. This isn't a passive process either. People intentionally shape one another in ways that can be subtle yet powerful. A toxic friend may start as someone whose judgment you trust, but before long, their cynical views on life may begin to mirror your own, leaving you questioning your previously optimistic outlook. Or perhaps a seemingly harmless change in behavior, like adopting a habit or phrase, could snowball into a full personality shift. This dynamic is especially true in high-stakes, emotional environments like workplaces, families, and intimate relationships. In these spaces, introjection can foster dependency, conflict, or even manipulation. Someone close to you, whether intentionally or not, could project their insecurities, fears, or desires onto you, causing you to internalize parts of their identity. Over time, these influences weave into your own identity, making it increasingly difficult to differentiate between who you were before and who you are now. The subtlety of introjection makes it both dangerous and insidious, often leaving no clear distinction between one person's identity and another's. The scientific explanation and symptoms. At a neurobiological level, introjection is a consequence of how our brains are wired to understand and bond with others. Mirror neurons, those crucial brain cells responsible for empathy and imitation, allow us to automatically replicate the behaviors we observe. This process can be beneficial in situations where empathy is required. If a friend is upset, we can instinctively sense their emotions, mirroring their sadness or anxiety. But this mirroring process can go awry. When introjection takes root, our brains don't simply mirror behaviors temporarily. They begin to incorporate these traits into our own mental framework, leading to lasting changes in personality. This means that introjection can result in deep, lasting psychological shifts. For example, let's say you've spent years surrounded by negativity. Maybe your family members are hypercritical, or your partner tends to view the world through a pessimistic lens. Over time, you may find yourself thinking in the same way, even if you once had a more positive outlook. That's introjection at work. You've unknowingly absorbed the negativity of those around you, shaping your personality without even realizing it. In many cases, this influence is so subtle that you don't even notice it until much later when the shift is already profound. This absorption is not just about adopting behaviors or habits either. It can infiltrate your beliefs, your worldview, and your emotional responses. You may begin to take on the emotional weight of someone else's trauma or anxiety, feeling as though their burdens have become your own. In more extreme cases, introjection can distort your perception of reality. Your sense of self begins to erode as you take on the identities of those around you, creating a fractured self-image. Instead of being an individual with a clear, defined personality, you become a composite of everyone you've interacted with, struggling to remember who you were before these influences took root. A famous real-world case study. Beyond Stockholm Syndrome, there are other examples where introjection manifests in shocking ways. One of the most famous cases of introjection outside of hostage situations can be found in the behavior of cult members. Cults often use psychological manipulation techniques to encourage followers to adopt the beliefs, practices, and even personality traits of their leaders. Over time, the followers begin to mirror their leaders' every action and thought. In many cases, they lose their sense of individuality and come to see themselves as part of a greater collective, one defined entirely by the will of the leader. A well-known example is the Heaven's Gate cult, whose members, in the final moments of their lives, committed mass suicide in an attempt to ascend to a higher plane of existence. The leader, Marshall Applewhite, had successfully indoctrinated his followers by drawing on their deep desires for belonging and meaning. Over time, they internalized his views on the world to the extent that their own identities dissolved. The group's beliefs, customs, and personalities became so intertwined with Applewhite's that they ceased to think critically about their actions. They didn't just follow his instructions, they became his personality. This is the most extreme and tragic example of how introjection can take over an individual's identity. In less extreme forms, introjection plays out in relationships and friendships every day. You don't need to be a hostage or a cult member to absorb the traits of those around you. The mind works tirelessly, adapting to the environments we live in, adjusting our thoughts, actions, and even our core values to match those of the people we spend the most time with. In the end, introjection doesn't just show how we adapt, it shows how easy it is for the lines between ourselves and others to blur until we no longer know who we are at all. The twist in application. You might not have experienced Stockholm Syndrome, but think about your everyday interactions. Have you ever caught yourself picking up a friend's habits, phrases, or even their anxieties? You might not realize it, but introjection is likely at work in many of your relationships. We absorb traits from those closest to us, whether we're aware of it or not. You might even find that over time you start to lose sight of your true self as you mirror those around you. Think about your family, your closest friends, or even the personalities you follow online. How much of their influence is really theirs, and how much has become yours? Have you ever wondered why you think a certain way or why you react in a particular manner to certain situations? You might just be living out someone else's personality without even knowing it. And so, we're left to wonder, when we absorb the personalities of others, how much of our true self remains? How do we separate our own identity from the people we interact with on a daily basis? As we delve deeper into the human mind, we start to see that we're all more malleable than we'd like to admit. So the next time you find yourself acting out of character, ask yourself, whose influence are you really reflecting? And that is why you need to watch the next videos.